Greeting fellow modelers, here we have the MESSERSCHMITT Bf109G-10 in Italian marking. These Sharks of the Sky was really one of those models I really wanted to build, so let's get into it, shall we? Here we have the MESSERSCHMITT Bf109G-10. Like I said, Italian markings. Let's begin with first the canopy. So when we cut the canopy out, we make sure to paint all the edges. Let me tell you, painting the edges really add a lot to how the aircraft will look at the end of this build. Now, because of the curvature of the fuselage, we're going to make the front of the canopy, the screen section, squared, but the tail part rounded. And now let's do the fuselage. So here I'm cutting out all the fuselage element. And then, you know what? Let's add the spinner to that. And we cut the pieces out. So for the curves, I use freehand. For the straights, of course, a steel ruler. I love the MESSERSCHMITT 109. A matter of fact, I really love the Luftwaffe aircraft simply because of the various color scheme and identification of a particular model. They were truly iconic, just as much as the Spitfire. As I said before, when you're doing these models, please make sure you go look it up on Google and see the 3 views of the model you're building and the cross section. That way, when you're doing the fuselage cross section, you know roughly how to bend it. Here you see I'm putting in joiner tabs, and then we can join the model as time go by. Beautiful. Now we form the main area. This is where the cockpit will sit on, and this is what will hold the wing itself. So here I'm putting in another set of joiner tabs that I make. And once he's going, we just simply cut, form a slight curve on the edge, and this is done on either end. So it's not a sharp joint, but it's smooth, as you can see here. Nice. Now, after a while of practicing that, you'll find that your models will look more like the plastic one. And here the canopy that we made, we're now putting on. Secure that, clamp it down using the tweezer. And listen, like I said before, always try to bend your model or flex it in such a way that it match the curve that you see in the drawings you do. Here you see I'm doing the front, and now I'm applying a little curve to it. This part here will mate with the spinner. And then you see I'm using the cake decorating tool to make sure emphasize that. Put in our joiner tabs, we cut splices, put that together. Look at that. You see the prettiness of it? I just really am excited every time I see a model that comes together. And now that we have done this part, we just secure that. Lovely. And this now we can join to the main fuselage once we get the basic shape, and we are good to go. I mean, we're almost halfway there. Look at this. Beautiful. Nice. You see how the model come together really well? And now for the cowling panel that's just in front of the windscreen that holds the machine gun and the ammunition rack and everything in that area. This distinctive look of the Gustav is what I really particularly love. So make sure that we just check the alignment and everything before we glue into place and clean it up. Look at that. And now we do the spinner. So here's what I want you to always keep in mind when you're doing these models. Remember, the first place that people will generally look at is the spinner. The second place is the cockpit. And that area, once you get those good and down pat, everything else will flow. So that's why you say I spend particular time shaping the spinner as you see here and carefully painting the edges. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that when you're joining the two halves, that you make sure that they're aligned. The curve of the spinner and the marking of the swirly band, the black and white band on it. All right, and then we join this onto the fuselage and we have a good looking model. The air intake now, we're going to deal with this filter. I love how this came together. I simply just use a toothpick to form the curve and it worked surprisingly well. And once we get it in position, we just paint it up and we're good to go. Always remember, it's the small details that bring your model alive. Now let's deal with the oil cooler below the engine. This is a straightforward, when you see I'm doing those, is lightly scoring so that it can fold effectively. It is not cutting the paper. All right, and then we just slot this into place and everything will be good. Just make sure you check the alignment every time. Don't rush it and just make sure it's always centered. And now let's deal with the fin. Putting together the fin is just like how we have done it in the other videos that I've uploaded. I like the fin of the models Bf109 series from Gustav's down to the Kerfers because of their more shark-like angular base of the fin, as well as how more pointed it was at the top and the overextended adjustment tabs that was located on the fin trailing edge. Another thing to bring the model alive is to never build the stabilizers or fin flat. Always leave space so that it is more rounded, and this is what I take the effort to do. We'll put a little joint tab in the tailpiece, then we put glue on and then we just slide into place, and pretty much that is it. Always make sure when you're finished with this, check the alignment. Once it's done and it's dried, paint the edges. Bring your model alive. And now let's deal with the stabilizer. Now here's my thing. Always make sure you use toothpick if you can, or any other material that will provide structure strong enough to make sure your stabilizer is level, 1, and 2, that it is not misaligned whenever you're putting it on both sides. It really helps with your model. And that's what I do here. Shaping it up a bit. Nice. Now here are some toothpick that I splice down into thinner strips so we can put them in first. And once they're in and I cut to the length I like, I remove the leading edge one and put a slight bend in it, because that's a part that will have the leading edge of the stabilizer. And then I can just slide both in position and we're good. Again, when you're finished, just check that it is 90 degrees to the fin, and lovely. Again, as always, paint the edges. And now let's deal with the wing. I really am happy every week to bring this to you, every weekend actually, and that you leave the comments letting me know what next you want to build. Now here's the thing, this year it's going to be even more incredible because I plan to do 1 or 2 Halinski models this year in its entirety, as well as go back to some Fiddler's Green models. But let me tell you, I did all these videos because I had a lot of bill of these scissor and plane models, and I really do truly enjoy them. And soon coming up, I also have the Sea Hurricane and the F105 Thunder Chief, so you can look out for those. Here you see I'm putting in the structural element for the leading edge, put in our glue, and the materials, the tools needed to build these models, you'll always see me make reference to them in the Fiddler's Green Beginner's Guide How to Build Kits, so you can check those out in the future if you need to see the tools I use. And now we put in those little humps on the leading edge. If anyone know what these were, you can let me know in the description, because initially I thought that they were literally for machine guns. And this part here now, make sure you paint the edges before you apply them to the wing. Now, after the model was finished, yes, the model carried a slight sheen. When it was finished, fully dried, painted and everything, I then applied a thin coat of matte varnish. Oh, and bear in mind, when I do these things, it is because I use oil varnish, not acrylic, because acrylic will let the paint run. It's very important that when you're putting the wing radiators on, make sure that they're aligned properly and they fit exactly over the areas as marked on the wing panel. So let's deal with the auxiliary fuel tank. If you notice carefully, that auxiliary fuel tank was not just put flush against the base of the fuselage, it has a tiny separation, and that's important. So this base here, you see I'm putting on. When I'm finished, I make a little extension to which I'm putting on the auxiliary fuel tank, which I'm in the here doing now. Now we're going to treat the auxiliary fuel tank the same way we treated our spinner. So we get our cake decorating tool to do the leading edge or the front of the auxiliary fuel tank, and then we form the sections and then we put them together, putting in the joiner tabs to join them. And spend time with these things, because like I tell you, these are the things that really truly bring your model alive. Look at that. Nice. Put our little separation on. Good. And then our fuel tank, you can either super glue it on, and there we have it. And now we just do the wheels. So first thing is landing gear covers. We cut out the landing gear struts. Now to get them to bend, I'm using a toothpick to just shape them first, and then I use solder wire. And solder wire now I use because one, it's simple to rotate the landing gear struts over. That's one. And two, I can bend it, and this now will take the wheels when we do them. Here I cut out the landing gear fairing and I glue the struts to the fairing. And then the wheel is typical how we build all the wheels in the other ones. We cut, glue, and make sure to paint them before we join them to the landing gear strut. Again, always use Google, look for the 3 views of the drawing, and just make sure that you put the landing gear in the correct place at the correct angles. Here is the tail wheel. Just make a little section there, pop the tail wheel in, and look at that, it's lovely. And then it's just simply putting in the paddle blades. I want to thank each and every one of you, I should say, for just following me and encouraging me, because there are times, I must confess, I'm doing these things and I'm going, I wish there was a way that more people could see this. And I realized that you being here watching this and liking a video or leaving a comment or subscribing really helped this channel to go a far way. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for just joining me week after week to see things. And there we have it, a finished Gustav Bf109 in Italian markings. I really love how it turned out. I want to thank all my Patreon sponsors for helping me making this possible. Without your help, I don't know where I would be. Thank you so much, my viewers. Take care, enjoy life, be well, be gentle to yourself. See you next week and look out during the week for short videos and one love.